Energy storage was all the talk a few weeks ago, but it just ain't sexy. So the headlines have shifted to Optimus, legacy auto partnerships, and the stock going moonward. Those are just some of the other much sexier topics that have been getting the Tesla community all excited. Well, sexy or not, we're going to reopen the battery storage conversation with this look at revenues, profits, and share price. We're going to look at it through 2030, and we're going to use Elon Musk's own goals. This is Randy Kirk. If this kind of content is helpful to you, useful to you, blah, 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 et cetera, please like. And then if you haven't ever subscribed, this is a good time to do that. And then this is the second in a series of 5 different of these projection videos, these prediction videos, where I'm taking each section of what you're interested in Tesla and breaking it out so that you can see, the details of what the stock is going to be probably doing over the next 5 or 6 years. So this is number 2. If you hit the notify button, you'll get notified of number 3, 4, and 5, all the parts that will be coming up next week. And I've got a couple of other interviews next week you're not going to want to miss. All right. And then, of course, Patreon, all of these charts, the charts that I'm doing, all of these spreadsheets will be up on my Patreon just as soon as I finish them. I put them up. A couple of them are already up. In fact, 3 or 4 of them are already up as I'm doing this video right now. And then I put the videos up early so that the Patreon members can see them ahead of the rest of the world. All right, let's get into it. I have a Google alert set to energy storage. I don't know if you do that. I have a Google alert set to Elon Musk. I have one set to Tesla. I have one set to energy storage. I have one set to solar. I have one set to Optimus. So I have a whole bunch of Google alerts so that I can see what's going on a daily basis. If you're not doing that, that's a recommendation right there. And every single day, I get an email from Google Alerts loaded with articles about energy storage. They're almost always about new installations going in locations all around the world, Australia, Hawaii, all across the United States, Europe, Canada. I mean, India, all kinds of installations going in, and a big part of them, a whole lot of the percentage of them are Tesla MegaPacks going into these energy storage opportunities. So Elon said that he wants 1 terawatt of energy storage per year by 2030. And I think that's going to be a no-brainer. We have done multiple previous videos. You can go back and look at these, a lot of videos on the energy storage business. And we know that there's massive demand. Now, we got another video coming up this coming week where we may be touching on that with an expert from London who's going to talk to us about both solar and energy storage. And she may be filling in some of the blanks on some of this next week. So, but we know there's massive demand, but and I'm not going to spend, the normal half hour just talking about the demand, but let me just run down quickly where the batteries go and why Elon says it's unlimited demand. Number 1, utility battery storage to manage flows. So the utilities need to manage the flows wherever the energy is coming in. You can't always take all of the energy that's coming at you at any given time. And so you're just wasting the energy. And other times you need more and you need to go this way or that way. Well, the batteries help them to manage these flows and to become more efficient, more effective. So that's the number 1 use right now is for these battery utilities for managing their flows. Number 2 is peaker plant replacements. Or for new, where a peaker plant would be going in, they put these in instead. There will never be another peaker plant built. I mean, I may be completely wrong about that, but basically, natural gas peaker plants are done. These are so much less expensive, so much faster, so much easier to permit. Number 3 is solar and wind backup and management. I did an analysis recently where I was trying to figure out what happened to solar and wind in terms of there was just like not very much going into action. Why was there a slowdown? Well, it turned out the slowdown was because there wasn't any batteries. So they need the batteries in order to make them as efficient as possible. The next category is factories, major retail stores, government, and military buildings. Military applications galore. Very, very big part of the business that hasn't even begun to be filled. Charging stations. So every single Tesla charging station is, whether they have one now, if they don't have one now, they'll be getting one of the MegaPacks for the charging stations. And then semi-trucks, you need a lot. You need these just to manage the grid when you're filling up the semi-trucks. And then the list goes on from there. Okay. So then if we'll assume for the moment that there's absolutely no problem on the demand side, that it's unlimited, as Elon has said. So then the question is, how fast can Tesla ramp? And I'm going to assume they can ramp really fast. The requirements for building a factory they're just not limiting. I mean, they put this first one over in Lathrop that went into an old, I think a J.C. Penney warehouse or something. They just need four tilt-up walls in a space. So it's not hard to find facilities to build these factories. The factories themselves are not even complex in terms of the way they need to be laid out or the equipment they need to buy. So the ramp is extremely fast. In fact, Lathrop, I think it was 9 months from the time that they before they landed the location, 9 months from then until they had first outs. Battery supply could slow things down, but Elon says he has plenty of those too. So on these projections that I've done, I set up a plan that will get Tesla to 1 terawatt by 2030, just with MegaPacks. I'm leaving power walls as a separate issue, and maybe Elon intended power walls to be part of that 1 terawatt hour, but I'm going to assume for now that it's just MegaPacks. We also have almost no information on power walls, so it's hard for me to project what that would be. So on the profit side, a lot of folks in the Tesla community were reporting, including me, that maybe the potential profit on the MegaPacks was in the 40% range or higher. But Elon scuttled all that. And he says, look, we're shooting for 25 to 30% margins. And I'm sure they're going to have additional income from software licenses, from maintenance, from upgrades, from arbitrage. And all that will probably add to the profits. But for the purposes of today, we're just going to look at a 25% 25% margin on unit sales of $2 million each, and 10,000. Well, we'll talk about the rest of those details in a minute. All right. It is possible. There's a really good chance that unit sale prices will decrease as the cost of goods decrease, but it's also possible that instead of lowering the price of each unit, they might just, as they get better at making these batteries, they might just increase the number of batteries or the amount of storage that's possible and keep the price at 2 million. Who knows which way that'll go, but there's going to be a lot of potential changes in that, but we can't project that. We don't know what it's going to look like. Last thing, there are timing issues with the billing of these units. It appears that the normal time, you would say, okay, we shipped it, or the customer got delivery, bill it, book the profit. That's when you take care of it. But in the case of MegaPacks, it appears that it's all based on the contract. And sometimes the revenues don't start even when the product is delivered. Even when they're turned on, it may not start the profits. It may be months afterwards where the MegaPacks are being proven, are tested, or they're hitting certain required limits or numbers. So I don't know how any of that works, and it may be different contract to contract, and there's no way for us right now to know how that works. So for this project that we're doing right now, for these projections, we're going to assume that it all takes place at the time of delivery. All right, let's go ahead and share the screen. Okay, let's take a look at the assumptions. Again, just run over those really quick. So revenues per MegaPack will be 2 million. The capacity per location will be 20,000 MegaPacks a year. Now, let me explain that. Right now, Lathrop is at 10,000 MegaPacks a year. According to Elon, the new facility that's going in Shanghai will also be 20 MegaPacks a year. Having said that, I don't think there's any reason to believe that those will be the absolute maximums, rather that those will be the first phase, and it's very likely that Lathrop will increase. I'm going to say to 20,000 MegaPacks, and we're going to assume that each new location, while the initial levels might be 10,000, that eventually they'll be shooting for 20,000. Now that could be completely wrong. So that would just mean they would need more locations in order to reach the numbers that I'm talking about. But again, these locations are so easy to set up and run. I don't think that's going to affect anything. So for the purposes of this, we will use 10,000 as an initial goal within 1 year of the beginning of the ramp, that they will be at 10,000 megapacks a year. And within 3 years, they will get to 20,000. Additional revenues will come from software licenses, maintenance, or arbitrage. We talked about that, but we will not include that in the analysis. And the goal is 1 terawatt of hour of energy storage by 2030. Powerwall is separate, and the selling price and margins could vary. Okay, here we go. So here's the scheme. Energy storage, the revenue from Lathrop started in 2023. I'm not going to show 2023, just 2024. And I'm assuming that it will get to its full 20 billion in 2024. And then they will begin to slowly ramp up to that. Instead of 10,000 packs, they will start working towards 20,000 packs. And you'll see that I have it slowly going to that by 2028. Okay. Shanghai, nothing in 2023, didn't exist in 23. I'm saying that they'll get half ramped in 2024, fully ramped in 2025. They'll do another year at that level, a couple of years at that level, and then they'll start ramping towards the next one. Then the third mega factory will start the following year and follow that exact same pattern. You notice there's no tricky stuff here. Okay, there's no fancy. Why is there nothing fancier? I've said this before in some of my other videos. Maybe you've watched those. There's no gain by being fancy. We're going to go with, in this particular case, we don't know anything. We don't know when these factories are going to go in. We don't know whether, in fact, they're going to, have a ramp this quickly every single time. We don't know if all of them will be 10 or some will be 20. Maybe some will be 40. I mean, we just don't know. So we're speculating in order to get to the number that Tesla says they want to get to on a kind of an even flow of a ramp over this 7-year period. Okay, so you can see we've got 7th, 8th, 9th, finally the 11th mega factory, which will start going into business in 2027. And so each year you'll have a total here of $30 billion in 2024, $74 billion in 25, 140 billion in 26, 205 billion, all the way up to 395 billion in 2030. Net operating profit with a margin. Now I'm talking about operating profit here. Elon might have been talking, when he said 25%, he might have been talking about the gross profit, sales versus cost of goods. But I'm going to assume, since he said 25 to 30, we're going to put an operating margin here of 25%. And again, we're not counting anything for any of these extras that are probably going to come in. So that's going to give a net operating margin. Now look at this now, a net operating profit next year of $7.5 billion. That's 2024. That's pretty much locked in. Let me say that again. That's pretty much locked in. The following year, jumping up to 18.5 billion. This is just primarily Lathrop and Shanghai, with a third factory starting and with Lathrop beginning to ramp a little beyond. So a little bit of this is not locked in, but I'd say 60 billion of it's locked in. And I think we're talking about 74 billion. The following year, it jumps up to 140 billion. I'm sorry, with 18.5 billion locked in. So let's start 18.5 locked in. And then the following year, 35 billion, 51, going all the way up to 100 billion. Earlier, I talked about this being maybe a $200 billion division in terms of profits, and it might be with all the extra, the additional profits coming in from maintenance, et cetera. But 98 billion wouldn't be bad. There are very few companies in the world that come anywhere close to $98 billion a year in profit. I think maybe two. Okay, so the profit per share would come in at 221 in just next year. That would go up to 544, 1029, and finally be as high almost as $30 per share of profit. Now let's look at this contribution to share price at a 50 PE. So in 2024, does this get sexier? To me, this is pretty sexy. This says that the value on this locked in 30 billion in profit, the value in the share price would be $110 per share next year, when the share price is likely to be no higher. My number is going to be, as you'll see later on, my number is going to be $700 next year for the share price. 110 of that is coming from energy storage. I don't know. That's pretty good the way I looked at it. Now let's look at the next year. $272 coming from energy storage, and then $500 a share in 2026 coming from energy storage. Now, Kathy Wood has got $2,000 as her estimated share price in 2026, and yet she has none of this $500 in her number. So I think we should take Kathy's share price of 2,000 and just add it in there. Now we're at 2,500 in 2026. Well, looky here. In 2030, the energy storage division by itself, if there's still a 50 PE, is at $1,452 just for the energy storage division. Now, let's say it's only a 30 PE. Well, a 30 PE would still put it at $1,000 a share in 2030. This is a stock that currently sells, what, 245 today? As I'm recording this, we were at 245, and we could be at 1,000 if they got rid of everything else and just did the energy storage between now and then. They could be at $1,000 a share in 2030. What would that make the stock worth right now? Okay, you can do the number. I'm not going to do that math for you, but I can tell you it's way more than $245 a share. All right, so I'm trying to tell you, this is still a sexy opportunity. And again, you can say, Randy, you're a wild-eyed crazy man. You're a total optimist. You're a super bull, an uber bull. You can say anything you want. These are Elon's numbers, not mine. Elon has been very right on in his numbers and his projections in terms of how many cars he's going to make, in terms of how many in terms of production. He's been very right on his numbers. So I'm going to tell you that I think these numbers are realistic. These are the numbers that Elon has given us. Those are pretty significant numbers. So if this has been useful to you, you know what to do. You need to like, you need to subscribe, you need to hit notify so that you get the next set of numbers coming up on Sunday morning. And those will be with regard to the income that Tesla is going to receive from the Inflation Reduction Act. And these numbers are almost as shocking as these numbers. So you aren't going to want to miss that. So hit notify. And then maybe you'd like to see these numbers, be able to maybe you could even, scroll through them, copy them, use them in your own spreadsheets. They are all going to be up on Patreon. And right now there's a 7-day free trial. You don't even have to pay for it. You could copy them. And then after 7 days say, well, never mind, I'm not going to do it. So anyway, try my Patreon. It's only $5 a month. There's also a $10 opportunity if you'd like to do that one instead. Anyway, that's a very cool thing you could do to help support the channel. So, having said all of that, it's been great talking to you.
Click the link below to get your paperback, Kindle, or audiobook now.